All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the ninth Filecoin Core Devs Biweekly meeting, and the first in 2021. Happy New Year. Um, Today we're welcoming Megan and Philip from the Filecoin Foundation. Excited to have you folks here. Um, our agenda for today, I wanted to start by bringing up briefly discussing the chain halt incident that we experienced in December, that some folks here may be familiar with. We'll then go over receiving our usual updates from the various implementations. And then there's at least a couple of FIPs that we should talk about. And maybe we can talk about the new interop network that's being launched in order to help facilitate the testing of the various implementations. Let me just quickly shut that. Cool. Yeah, so maybe to briefly start, yeah, so on December 19th, we've published some communication about this already, but on December 19th, the Filecoin mainnet experienced a few hour outage. The underlying incident was basically a bug in Specs Actors code. There was some non-determinism in one of the actors. So the incident response itself was, I'd say, pretty good on the whole. We were able to be alerted and resolve the incident all within a few hours. And for more details, I think we're putting out a blog post fairly soon. I was wondering if anyone had questions about that.
I mean, it's not a question about that in particular, but yeah, we were discussing as a team as to how we wanted to handle that situation. It doesn't seem like it's something that we will be able to match, like, you know, the undefined, or rather non-deterministic behavior pre fork version 9. So yeah, I was just wondering what the I guess the plan is for the other implementations that are going to have to deal with this as well.
Yeah, fair question. Stephen, is it clear by this point whether other implementations will have to implement the bug essentially?
So they will have to implement, well, no, it's not clear. They may have to, no, I take it back. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have access to every single message that has been sent on the chain. And I would need that to figure out if there have been any messages that had multiple declarations of second termination. Does Kuba, you're trying to speak, have access to that?
So from my, I don't know whether it happened for example, for messages in size of 2 or 3, where this bug was triggered with 2 or 3 deadlines. But if it was, then the workaround will be to replicate what we were doing and what most of the network would do, which would be insertion order. So
I just want to clarify, though, you said before that even if, like, with 2 entries, there'd be a 1 out of 8 chance of changing the order, correct?
yeah, but
Okay.
Majority of the network should have followed the insertion order.
Yes, but I would have expected 1 out of 8, or 1/8 of the network to have literally dropped offline. So that should have been noticeable.
Yeah, that's why there's very high chance that there was no instance of this being triggered previously. We need to run a full chain scan for that. We should probably do that, schedule that.
Yes, I think the short answer is with high probability we might get lucky, but further analysis is needed to figure out exactly what messages are on chain and how implementations will have to handle it. We'll do that and get back to you before the next core devs meeting in 2 weeks.
Yeah, cool, thanks. Yeah, because we were debating whether like we should just start you know, being V9 and forward compatible, or if there's anything else that anybody who's implementing actors. I guess the only other team implementing actors is the Fuhan team. So just seeing what they were doing and how they were handling this. But yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Cool.
Are you planning on implementing state upgrades?
Like the state migrations, is that what you're talking about?
Or well, specifically, like state upgrades and like state format changes.
I'm not. I don't really know what you're talking about. Exactly.
Sorry, I'm talking about actors v2 versus actors v1. So we have state migrations that don't actually change the format of the state, but then we also have state migrations that actually change like the fields.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, so that kind of, I mean, obviously we're going to need it eventually when we upgrade to Actors v3 and future forks going forward. But if you're talking about pre-version 9, I guess that kind of depends on whether, depends on when we get this analysis of whether we're going to hit those bugs in v9. Like, it's not entirely clear if we're going to implement, I'm guessing you're talking about the v7, because I remember there's migrations for V4, which is the Actors V2 upgrade, and there's V7 and V9. I think those are the 3 state migrations that that are in spec actors.
Yeah, the big one though is v4. That's the Actors v2 upgrade. That was when they actually changed the format stuff on disk.
Yeah, I don't. We don't plan on implementing the V1 or V0 to V2 actors upgrade because that's all pre-mainnet. And there's just just so many. It's a chunky code base. I was talking to. I have a thread going on yesterday on how to generate a V2 Genesis, because that's kind of where we want to start. Like, we have V1 actors implemented. It's just like the state migration is a lot of work that needs to be put into not even sync mainnet.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Cool. Okay, yeah, thanks for that discussion. Feel free to ask more questions at any point regarding the incident or just the work involved with actors migrations. But let's jump into updates now. Time for our usual game. Maybe we'll hear from Fuhan first today.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sayush. Good evening, everyone. So for the Fuhan update, we are currently were able to download all the data from the mainnet. Molly, yesterday I've told you that it was downloaded from the like actually downloaded, but I rechecked and it's actually a snapshot. So just to make it clear for you. And we have started interpreting all the messages and gain the height up to the current mainnet height, which is 402,000 something. It was yesterday. So we are currently in the process of interpreting messages, but we have faced an issue with not so fast pace of the interpretation itself. Partially it is related to the hardware we are using. So it's just a regular laptop, and we are currently deploying the solution to the more or less viable hardware. But we also going into the profiling and seeing what exactly are the bottlenecks and what takes lots of time, the most time during the interpretation. In parallel, we are going through the stability testing of the markets. So functionally, they're ready. And we are figuring out whether software itself is stable enough to be run with miner and node. Yeah, and we have two major actors left to be compatible with Lotus V2 actors, which are storage miner actor and market actor. So the storage market actor is obviously the biggest one. So we expect it to be either ready or close to be ready by the next biweekly meeting. So and market probably will also be ready at this point. So either by the next biweekly meeting we will have, or the one after the next one will be ready to conclude the V2 actors. We will probably postpone the 3 actors for now and just stick to V2 for now and dedicate more time to testing and working with node plus miner compatibility and testing more thoroughly. So this is update from my side. Any questions?
No, that sounds great. Yeah, that's a lot of work. We've hit 2021 hard. Yeah, let's hear from maybe someone from Venus.
Yeah, hi everyone. Welcome back from your holiday. During the holiday, actually, we're in China. We're not in holiday, and so we are have been working for about a few weeks on to make our implementation workable in calibration network and the main network. Which is good, and we think we have just passed the test in calibration network, and we had set up one node today in the main network. I can put our node, miner ID in the chat room. You could check that. We have the messages, the pre-commit sectors and the post-commit sectors messages on board, and we also have one window post messages on board. So you could say that we already have power right now. So if everything goes smoothly, I would think that we could have the first official version, which is workable in mainnet next tomorrow. We hope we'll do that, and we will have this announcement. Okay, which is very cool, I think. Well, we have this milestone, and the next 2 weeks we think that we will do something to stabilize the implementation. Actually, while we're running this node, we find some problems, so we need to fix them. And which is the first thing, and the next one is we need to have some documents first. Okay, we plan to have English and Chinese version of the documents, and also for the developers and the users. Based on that, we may add some CLI comments to make it much easier to use. This is the first thing we need to do. I would think next 2 weeks, and after that, we will start our milestone 2, which is to support the distributed mining pool. That is the plan. So, so any questions?
No, sounds great. Congratulations. Welcome to mainnet. That's absolutely fantastic news. Just reading it out, the ID is F01287888, and that's a Venus created miner on mainnet, which is great. Well done. Maybe let's hear from someone from Forest.
Hey, so over the last, I guess, month or so since we last met, we've actually completed all the core functionality that we wanted to start to attempt to sync with mainnet. So a couple of the things that we had worked on is finishing our staying in sync mechanism. So what we do sort of after the initial sync. So just the logic for changing the syncing state to chain follow. We also integrated the storage miner successfully and upgraded to Actors v2 and are passing all the conformance tests. So now we're basically at the point where we want to test interop. So there's a few different ways that we're doing that. One is testing with the local DevNet, so spinning up different configurations of Lotus and Forest nodes with block protection, and just seeing what happens there. We had some issues generating Genesis from v2, but I think Eric figured that out yesterday, which is great. And then after that, we're excited to try syncing with interop.net once that is up. And then finally, once we get those two working, just syncing with mainnet. And the reason that we're going in this order is just because there's so much, the state is so large on mainnet that it's hard to debug using on mainnet when there is a discrepancy. So that's why we're kind of starting with local DevNet, then interop.net, and then mainnet. We've also been updating our libptp to the latest version. And yeah, I think that's about it. Exciting to be at this point. We're also have been talking with Molly about setting up an audit at some point in the next 1 to 2 months. So yeah, that's about it.
Fantastic. Yeah, if I remember correctly from your last update, you had a set of goals that you wanted to achieve before you were thinking about an audit. And based on everything you said, I think you've met all of those goals already, which is
yeah,
great.
yeah. It's definitely an exciting time.
Well done. Yeah, fairly brief Lotus update. Obviously, we've been on holidays for a good chunk, but for the most part, we're continuing to be somewhat internally focused in terms of making the Lotus functionality better. Some focus on deal making, focus on overall performance. So we've had a whole bunch of improvements going there. We'll probably be cutting an optional 1.4.1 release next week that introduces some of those improvements. The rest of our work has been towards the next network upgrade, which will be introducing FIP10 is the plan, and we'll be talking about that a bit more. That's hoping to go out end of January with an upgrade. Early February is the current timeline. So yeah, cool, very cool. Megan and Philip, I was wondering if either of you or both of you would like to do an intro or any updates from the foundation that y'all would like to provide.
Yeah, I mean, we're just sort of chugging along at the foundation, kind of excited to, finally get into this meeting and figure out where we can be helpful with FIPS and the FIP process. I don't know if Philip, you want to talk at all about dev grants or anything, but I feel like we have, I don't want to sound frustrated. We've spent a lot of time trying to get all the ducks in a row to get all the corporate infrastructure and everything in place. And so I'm super excited to actually be doing some of the work that the foundation is set out to do, as far as being involved in the actual governance of the network.
Yeah, there's not much more to add to that, really. I don't think there's the right forum for dev grants or anything like it, but just piling on to Megan, super happy to be here and very excited to be participating in the governance process. And I hope you'll all be seeing much more of us over the coming months. Yeah,
sounds great. We'd love to. You've got to appreciate when setting up the corporate infrastructure proves to be more challenging than launching a blockchain itself. That's how it is sometimes.
You bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome. It's nice to have you folks here. Cool. I think the probably next order of business is to move on FIP10. This is the optimistic window post FIP that we've kind of extensively been discussing since November. The FIP itself is now in draft, and I was wondering if anyone had any new thoughts, or if we were kind of ready to vote and say that we're all in favor of it. In particular, if anyone has any sees any new problems with it, please raise them now.
I'm most happy to walk through it.
Okay.
Yeah, Stephen, if you wanted to quickly walk through it, that would be good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just one concern it comes to my mind, which is about the security consideration. I'm thinking about the dispute and attack. So yeah. In this mechanism, I would think one could send out a lot of dispute message to the network to slow down the chain, because every dispute message can take some time to verify. So I would think that we need to put some cost in this kind of message and also increase the reward for the correct dispute. Not very sure if this concern is valid, but I would think that it's possible.
So the dispute will currently cost normal gas. So you could do the same thing by just sending lots of other messages. Let's see. We could say that the first incorrect but otherwise correct dispute is the only one accepted. I'm concerned about doing that though, because there may be tricky ways to like submit a dispute that the chain thinks is like correctly formed, but incorrectly disprove something when actually there is a correct dispute that actually disputes that proof. So I'm just slightly concerned about doing that because it might open up an attack where you can like incorrectly dispute your own proof to sort of delete it from the chain, and then no one else can dispute it.
Like you shield a bad post by
Yeah.
incorrectly.
I don't think it's like I don't think it's like I think there is a way to do this. Basically, just make sure like you get all the way down to like the dispute part, and then instead of like currently what happens is when dispute finishes, it basically when it gets to proof, it fails if it fails to dispute the proof. Instead, we could return a failure value instead of actually just like aborting, and then actually remove the dispute. I'm just again, I'm still concerned that there are a lot of ways that can go wrong. There are other ways where like we could accidentally update the state where we think, oh, it's like usually when we do something like this, we assume that the method only completes if everything finishes. But in this case, we could accidentally like mark something as faulty or do something else. I guess the sufficient test should catch that. But my hope here is that gas costs should cover this.
Yeah, this is good to flag though, in that we've talked about the high level idea of optimistic or off-chain window post verification, but it would be good to go over the details of how it's finally been sketched out in the FIP. So yeah, Stephen, if you do want to share that, maybe it'll spur more discussion.
Yeah, sure. Oh, sorry, I think two different Stephens.
Yes, this time
just call me Steb.
Yeah,
just call me Steb. It'll make things simpler.
This time Steb Alien.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can discuss this offline. Okay. Maybe more discussion.
The question is, does anyone want me to walk through how the actual process works, like how the dispute FIP works, or is everyone here comfortable with it?
Yeah, I have no problem of the whole thing. I think is good. Yeah, it will improve the improve the bandwidth, which is very good for to mitigate the congestion of the current state. It's good.
But my question is, is there anyone here who's not comfortable with the current, or sorry, who doesn't understand the current implementation fully and wants me to walk through it?
Okay.
I don't want to waste everyone's time, but I definitely would love a walkthrough.
Okay. I can give a very short one then. So the short version is basically there are two parts to this. One, when a submit window post message goes to the chain, as long as it's not recovering power, as long as it's just proving the status quo, it will be optimistically accepted and stored. And like power will continue and nothing else will happen. Later, a miner can, or some other miner, or really anyone else, can look this up on chain and decide, or like basically test the proof locally, actually validate it. And if it doesn't validate, they can submit a dispute window post message. The dispute window post message contains the deadline where the proof has been stored and the index in the stored proofs table on chain. The chain will then look up the proof from that index, pull it out, test it, basically run the normal window post code, determine whether or not the proof is actually correct. If it's incorrect, the target miner will be fined based on the amount of power they incorrectly proved. The sectors that were incorrectly proved will now be marked faulty. And the person who submitted the dispute will be given a small reward. This is the change we made actually last night, in order to cover the cost of actually submitting these disputes, because it does cause gas. Yeah, that's the general idea. There are a couple of interesting parts here. One, if any of you are familiar with compact partitions, this means we now have separate distinct windows where like we have the dispute window and then a compact partitions window, because the compact partitions command or method can reorganize partitions, which would make it impossible to actually dispute anything because everything is moved. So now like we basically have a window where you can dispute, and then we have a window where you can rearrange your partitions. Other interesting parts. That's basically it in terms of interesting parts of the, yeah.
Thanks.
What's the current dispute window? As preferred.
It's 1800 epochs, so 2 times finality.
Cool. Yeah, there's a question from Raul in chat that's worth asking. So as a network, we'll incur the gas cost of the window post verification only for proofs that are being disputed, right? And I think the answer is no, right? Because at this point, the window post verification gas cost is always paid for. In that, because of FIP9, we don't pay for the actual, the network pays. Currently in FIP9, the network pays for the cost of the window post message itself. With adding on FIP10, the dispute gas cost messages, the dispute window post message pays for gas normally, and so the cost of the actual validate post cost will be paid for by that message, right?
Yes. One tricky part here is recovering power. I would like to, after this proposal, propose that we remove FIP9 if it turns out that this makes it cheap enough. Because like at the moment, the network will basically pay for recovering power. I prefer it if a miner has a fault, or if like in this case a miner incorrectly proves the sectors, that they then have to pay for a full post on chain to actually recover the power. That's just something I didn't go over really. Where like when you submit a post normally to the chain and it doesn't recover any power, it doesn't. You don't have to check that on chain. If it recovers power, you have to check that on chain. Otherwise, what can happen is like you can submit a bad post. Someone else could disprove it. The sector could be marked faulty. I could submit another bad post to mark it as not faulty. The expiration of that sector gets extended again because it's no longer faulty. So like, or the 14-day termination or fault termination epoch gets extended again. Someone else disproves the post again, gets marked faulty. You keep on going on like this forever and basically extend the sector indefinitely. This is the primary reason why recovering power requires an on-chain proof.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just one question. I kind of didn't really understand what you guys are talking about with respect to Raul's question in the chat. So currently, like as Ayush said, right now we're not paying window post gas fees. So are like for this for FIP10, is the disputer gonna pay the gas fee, or are those still waived? They're yeah.
The disputer will pay the gas fee, but they will also be given a reward that should cover the gas fee and then some.
And the reward comes from the
Accessible dispute.
Oh, sorry, what? Oh. So the fee that the disputer gets is coming from the window, like when you submit a window post, right? I'm guessing you have to post a bond or something.
No, so it comes from vesting rewards, the same as fault fees.
Okay, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So if a miner is, for example, lower than the minimum power, then the motivation for disputing posts is relatively low. I still expect that parties will do this even if it's at cost. That is actually a potential attack. It's interesting, or someone could just like try to fill the network with bad but low quality data. That'd be interesting, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of thinking about how, with the base fee increasing or decreasing, or like just the gas in general decreasing or increasing, it like seems that there will be a point where it's not rational to dispute proofs anymore, unless the reward is also dynamically changed with respect to gas costs.
There's also another perspective there where for miners in the network, it's always rational to dispute a third-party proof because it increases their power share. So
slightly, but so the idea is to at least set this cutoff to be enough, such that so the idea is to set the word to be high enough such that any reasonable base fee, or basically where the chain is not completely like swamped, would still be would still allow for a positive reward. That's what the current approach is, like maybe 1 to 2 fill or maybe like 4 fill. we have to figure out how much it costs to actually run or execute these dispute messages. Yes, I understand that that is a concern. The problem right now is that the runtime does not have access to the base fee. That is something we could do. We could just give the runtime access to the base fee and compute that internally. Kuba, how feasible is that?
It wouldn't be bad. We already know it there, like on a lot of sides. So, like it depends mostly on our implementations.
The other thing addressing your question, Eric, is I think a lot of this, a lot of the security just kind of gets away on an all you need is one approach, where it's, at least from my perspective, it's kind of okay if it's not perfectly rational to dispute these posts, because we don't need every actor in the system in order to do it. So long as one person does it and everyone else is willing to like accept it, and like miners are willing to just accept the message, that's kind of all you need for security here. So I kind of feel like there's a lower threshold.
Yes and no. There's still the concern of like you have lots of really, really tiny miners. This is the problem with FIP9, where like FIP9 is still in place, then restoring the power. Well, actually, no, I take that back. Just restoring power. Yeah, no, restoring power would be free, basically. But like, yes, I still have to have the storage, but I can just like, I can try to attack the network by restoring power for free, and then submitting a bad proof, and then waiting for someone to try to disprove it, and then just keep on going. And if I don't even have any, like if there's no money in my account for a reward, then I can kind of just like keep on doing this. Like I guess at some point you can say that, well, like if the miner is below the minimum power, or they don't really have a reward, then there's no real incentive to actually dispute their proofs. Maybe that's fine.
Yeah. There's a question from ZX in chat. Is the software to verify window post off-chain available, or will it be simple for the community to come up with that software? Kind of yes to both questions. Our plan is to just roll it out with Lotus itself and have it like easy to enable, so that basically anyone running a Lotus node can opt to also be a window post validator that would automatically submit dispute messages as needed. It should be pretty easy for anyone enterprising to build their own kind of window post tracker, and that can be like its own subsystem of the Filecoin network as well.
Also, sorry if I missed it because I showed up a bit late. Sorry about that. Is there anything around timeline for this? Like, is this planned to be its own network version? Is it going to be grouped in with V3, or is there any plan around that? Sorry if I missed the answer, by the way.
No worries. The plan is to group it in with V3. And so a timeline is ideally put out a release end of January, network upgrade early February.
Yeah, there is one reminder here is that the Chinese Spring Festival holiday will be from 11th February to 15th. So I would think that the base timeline will be and as you said, the end of January or early February. And also while we have this new version, we need to implementation into other clients. For example, the VLANs need to have this integrated too, and also for others, Forest and Fohang. So we need, I think we need enough time to do this. We need to have this ready, perhaps 1 week or 10 days before, really upgrade.
Yeah, that's a good note. Yeah, so we've definitely been mindful of upcoming holidays, which is why the plan would is to get it out, ideally about a week before folks go away on holiday, so that if there are any issues, there's a window to improve them. That's a good note about other implementations needing some room as well. Yeah, I think it should be possible to give about 10 days, which I think. Should be sufficient.
Okay, it's good.
Yeah, maybe a note from that, especially. Oh, sorry, just Stephen. Since Venus nodes are starting to join the mainnet, which is really awesome, congratulations. Like, that's definitely. I don't think that we weren't quite aware that you guys were that close, which is awesome. And so we definitely want to move towards releases come out in coordination across all implementations for an upcoming state upgrade, so that miners can upgrade all at the same time and continue like going over top of the state upgrade epoch together. And so, making sure that we have communication between implementations so that we're able to coordinate full compatibility ahead of a state upgrade is definitely, that's what we want the process to be like. I don't know if we hadn't quite had that planned for this network version upgrade because we didn't realize quite how close you guys were. And so maybe let's check in on that, like how close you guys are for actors. I guess actors v3 doesn't matter so much to you guys, so it'll be more Venus integrating the actors changes in this network version ahead of time to put out a coordinated release, especially if you guys are starting to get more mainnet miner adoption by the beginning of February. So in the next like 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, okay. And I was thinking we could do that in the calibration network first. If we have that interoperate in calibration and we have all this integrated, that will be much easier to put it into the mainnet.
Yep, and we will be deploying the upgrade and calibration net as well.
Okay, good.
Cool. Okay. Thanks for the discussion on this. Has been really helpful. I think, and overall, like over the past 2 months that we've been talking about optimistic window posts, I think we've got a lot of really good insight from this group and from the broader community. It's been really good. Any final thoughts on it, or are we happy with FIP10?
I just have one final quick question about it. So like the off-chain I guess verifier, is that going to be implemented inside of like the Lotus daemon? Is it going to be a separate executable? Is it going to be part of the miner? Just so I can have a little bit more context if whether we need to build any interfaces to this or if we build it directly into the software or.
That's a good question. Honestly, we haven't figured that out yet. I was thinking we'd build it directly into the Lotus daemon, but it could be its own process if that's better.
There's really no if it's built into Lotus daemon directly, I would expect it could be very simply extracted out of Lotus daemon and be separate process or something like that. It's very loosely tied, in essence, you want to monitor executed messages on chain, and in response to some message after verifying and the verification failing, you want to submit a new message. It's not a complicated process, right?
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, it's basically got three steps. Like listens to messages every now and then, says, "Hey, I'm interested in validating this message," and then based on the outcome of that, submit a message. So. Cool. Any more thoughts about FIP10? All right, sounds good. Obviously, if you have any future thoughts, especially if you have security concerns with it, please let us know. Share your thoughts. We're eager to hear them. But we will probably move FIP10 along in the implementation and the FIP process, which is great. All right, we are running low on time, but I know folks wanted to talk about the interopnet. Travis isn't here. Molly, do you want to provide a quick update on that?
Sure. This is just something we talked about in, I guess, Core Devs meeting in December, just for the groups that are getting closer to joining the mainnet, but are not yet there. And just as more implementations are preparing to join the mainnet, making sure that we have an interop net, which we actually had one back in the day in testing interop between Lotus and Filecoin, but a network that maybe has, as Austin was mentioning, or Amr was mentioning, less chain state than current calibration and mainnet, and also has maybe some of the testing parameters that make it fast to create new blocks and generally test that things are working properly. So I think the discussion in the Phil implementers thread was aiming for 512 megabyte sectors so that people can kind of, test things really quickly. But spinning that up, I think probably it'll be next week at this point, just since Travis is taking the lead on that and kind of pushing that forward. And the aim here would just be get all implementations working on this network and able to validate and move really quickly. We probably use this until all the implementations join the mainnet, then spin down the network, and then in the future, when we're testing for like a coordinated big state upgrade, probably spin that network back up for those sorts of like heavy coordination across implementation testing experiences to make sure that we're kind of doing that effectively. There is an ongoing conversation about making sure the network starts at spec actors version 2. So not doing the state upgrade, but having the genesis at that. Sounded like that was doable on Travis's side from the Phil implementers thread, but definitely check that for latest status. Otherwise, yeah, I think, yeah, as soon as we can get all of the nodes there, use that as a heavy testing ground, and from there, upgrade into either calibration net or mainnet for even more heavy duty testing. Yeah, I don't know if Austin had a particular question about InterruptNet since he was waiting for that agenda item. Is the upgrade planned to be deployed in InterruptNet? I think we'll probably be planning to deploy the upgrade in calibration net and not yet InterruptNet, and focus InterruptNet on getting everyone onto the network in like deploying the upgrade early in InterruptNet. But it's up to us if folks want us to do the upgrade there sooner rather than later. We could do that as well if it makes people's lives easier.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like that question is kind of like, what do you want and what does this group want? Whether it's more important to fully get stable interop on V2 actors or kind of keep up with the latest mainnet. We could definitely do either.
Yeah, I was more just asking out of curiosity. I think either way is probably fine. I don't think, I mean, yeah, either way is fine.
Yeah, my slight gut would be to do the upgrade and calibration net early to make sure that that's working properly, and then separately have the interrupt net and not worry about having doing the same upgrade in 2 different networks at the same time.
Cool. Any other questions?
Oh, I had one other thing when it comes to interrupt nets and testing and multiple implementations joining mainnet. Something that I think would be a really good practice for all of us, especially groups who have kind of coordinated mining efforts or testing mining efforts, is to make a good practice of running all of the implementations that are ready to join the mainnet. And so, for example, I think kind of each implementation committing to running one node of each of the other implementations will be really beneficial to us. It'll allow us to do much faster compatibility testing locally with our mining setups. It gives the implementations like more early testers across different hardware configurations to find maybe bugs that you wouldn't otherwise. And so, for example, having the, like we have an infra mining team that should start running not just Lotus, but also Venus, Forest, and eventually Fuhan when all those are ready, and vice versa. I think Venus running all the implementations, Forest running all the implementations, I think that'll give us better cross visibility and help us, debug issues faster. And so if we can all collectively make that sort of a commitment to each other, I think it would be beneficial and give us also a couple default users on our path to having at least 20% of network power be well distributed across other implementations than Lotus, so that we get the good security benefits of it.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. I'm also just excited to run everyone else's implementations, so I'm happy to do that.
Just one quick question with respect to InterruptNet. If we're all expected to be producing blocks on this network, is there any general guidelines on what kind of hardware is needed? Like, is this runnable in the cloud, for example? Because I know on mainnet, it's like you basically can't really do much unless you have like a lot of RAM and all that, and like, you know, some nice beefy graphics cards. So just kind of wondering what if there's any hardware requirements for 512 meg sectors.
You're probably not going to be able to run it in the cloud. Kuba, you probably have a better answer.
I'm not sure about 512. We rarely use it. So yeah, I don't know where. So there are a few versions. So I don't know how 512 proofs are tuned, whether they are tuned for security or development. So I would need to check that. I will ask around. And
the issue is that's not likely because the ceiling is going to be cheap and doing the Merkle trees is cheap. But you might need.
So Nicola, the question is whether we do 10x snarks or not.
I see.
For 512.
I don't know.
Well, we'll get you an answer to that. I don't think we have 512 megabyte hardware recs published anywhere. We probably should have that, given that we can do that on calibration net too.
Yeah, I mean, like, we don't necessarily have to do 512 meg sectors, but just finding like a sector size that's like just easier for everybody to run. Like, I don't know the status of the other teams, whether they have any nice gear to be running this, or, you know, all of that stuff. So probably good to coordinate on specifications for hardware and sector sizes and all that good stuff.
Yeah, agreed. Let's start with thread and fill implementers. We'll get Travis and some other people's insight there, because yeah, I definitely don't want people to have to, buy tons of hardware for interopnet. Eric Molly asks if Big Chungus is still operational.
Big Chungus is always running. So yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy to donate some mining power if there's if I can work with somebody on the Lotus side to be able to keep Big Chungus running on mainnet and Big Chungus running some miners on the DevNet, or the interopnet rather. Because yeah, right now we aren't really sealing blocks at max capacity. We're kind of just we're just working with small groups of people who want to store files on the Filecoin network. So we're just kind of sealing as needed. So there's definitely a lot of sealing capacity that's unused for mainnet. So yeah, I'd be very open to working with somebody on the Filecoin team to get our setup to work on more than one network. That'd be awesome.
Awesome. Anything else people wanted to bring up?
I have a brief question for Raul, actually. Do you have any updates for the test vectors? And I have seen that we have a couple of issues not resolved. And...
Maxime, you're cutting out there. I didn't understand your question.
Yeah. Do you hear me better now?
Yes, we do, yeah.
Okay, so I have a question regarding the test vectors. Do you have any updates on your side? And we have a couple of issues submitted as well as one from Austin. Do we need to follow up on this, or?
Not right now. I don't have any updates. The only update is that over the holidays we merged a bunch of enhancements on the generation side of things and the validation for tipset vectors. So now we have the ability to extract tipset vectors from chain, and also so you can specify a range of tipsets to extract, and you can specify if you want a file or a vector per tipset, or you want to squash all the tipsets into a single vector. And then we added some functionality for adding hooks to the execution of tipset vectors, such that we can intercept every time that a vector is executed and then run some logic to extract, for example, balances of miners and things like that. But that's kind of like to the update side of things. But for the specific issues that you opened, I need to take a look at them, and we definitely need to update the corpus with all the new forks that are happening. That is stayed behind. We just right now don't have the capacity to look into that, but I think we need to integrate a lot better the test vectors with the upcoming forks that are planned in the FIPS, because ideally after implementing each FIP, there should be a set of test vectors that other implementations can use to verify the compliance with that FIP. But this is an open question still. Sorry that I don't have a really good answer for you.
I just have one quick question about the tip set vectors with the currently, because I tried the tip set vectors before, and I remember I messaged you talking about how it hit the circ supply, and like that obviously wasn't set up with the test vectors. So I don't know if anyone else has run into that issue, or if I should just open up an issue on test vectors, or start the discussion somewhere else. But as far as I was able to test, like the new V2 tip set vectors, or at least the ones that call into circ supply, have been pretty broken. So I don't know if anyone else has run into that.
It looks like either, yeah. I'll look into that. Let's chat again on the Slack, and we'll look into that. Yeah.
Cool. Any other points of discussion? All right. Well, thank you very much. This was a super productive conversation. It's nice to talk to everyone after the break, and we'll be in touch. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye. Thanks.
Okay.